What is going on, everybody? We are back already for week 2 of our 3-part hip series. Last week we kind of went over how to mobilize the various movements of the hip. This week we're looking at activation. How can we get the muscles that kind of surround that hip joint to fire up and make sure that everything is creating good lines of tension and pulling our joints and muscles pulling our joints, not really pulling, whatever, stupid things I say. Pulling those joints into the proper position where they are aligned, they're happy, and then we can get them ready and functioning well to train them well, which we'll discuss a little bit next week. So no long intro today. We're just going to kind of talk over that for a minute. And then I'm going to break right into the exercises that I'm going to hope that I can remember the 4 exercises that I have in the order that I have them, which I think I can do. But we're going to do this in one shot. So anytime that I mess up, I just mess up. And that becomes part of the video and you guys get to laugh at it. So I hope you find that entertaining because it's bound to happen at some point here. Getting into our activation, I'm going to start you guys off with something that I like to do, particularly for my lower body days, just to kind of get my hips warm a little bit, get my butt woken up, which we're going to find out is very important muscle group for training your lower body. And that's just a side-lying hip abduction series. And I call it a series because there's 3 different movements that we're going to do with this overarching abduction movement. And that's going to be just a leg raise iso with a forward to back or front to back movement, and then some circles. You guys will see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So to set up for that, hopefully we can make this work on camera. I'm going to lie flat on my side. I don't know why I knocked that over there. I'll need that in a minute. But lying on our side, I like to put this arm out in front of me. You'll see with some of these movements that we're going to have kind of like a little bit of loss of balance. So stabilize yourself as best you can here. Putting that arm out. You can lay your head down on it if you would like. That'd be weird if I'm just like lying on my face talking to you guys. So we're going to keep my head up. But first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to raise this leg right up in the air like that and back down. Now, I'm not going to pick it up as high as I can because I can feel right here I'm pinching with my side. This is a little tiny muscle on the outside of your butt that we're trying to use here. So I want to feel this right on the outside of my butt cheek in the gluteus medius if you want to get fancy with it. Now I'm going to raise that up. You can hold for a second at the top if you would like, but there's a lot of movement that we're going to be doing here, so we don't have to like hold that for a super long time. But again, that first movement is just straight up, right back down. We're going to do that 10 times. 10 leg raises right there. After those 10, we're going to pick that leg up. This bottom leg, I'm going to bend that. Again, getting back to that, we don't want to be falling here. This is the most unstable one. Is we're going to take that leg forward and then back behind us. I'm kind of pinching my butt when I take it back. Forward and back. Again, not moving so far that I'm arching and leaning back and losing my balance here. But just creating, again, that line of tension in front of us and behind us a little bit. Again, we're going to go 10 times forward and back. I don't know how many times I'm doing this on the video. I'm just talking while I do it, so I'm not paying attention. That's 2. Our third one, we're going to do circles, forward and backward. This one usually kills me. By the time I'm done with this, I'm super tired, and this little muscles on the outside of my butt is giving up and doesn't want to raise my leg anymore. So I like to do this one 5 forward and 5 back. That last one, the forward back, if I didn't say it, was 10 each way as well. Is the same as the first one. So we go 10 up and down, 10 forward back each way. This one I do 5. This is 10. 5. So I'm going to go forward first. Some big circles here. But again, not so high that I'm pinching my side. I'm just using that glute med. Oh, it already hurts. I don't know how many that was. It's good enough. 5 forward, and then 5 in the reverse direction. That is where we're going to start with this whole activation series. And you'll know what I'm talking about whenever you guys try that, because right there, right in that side butt is going to be screaming right off the bat. I'm not going to demonstrate all this because I'm being lazy on this video. But the second, or not the second, but obviously we want to do both sides. Now, from doing the first side, what you'll notice is that my right side that's on the floor right now is already fatigued. So I feel it pushing off to do this. So The second side's probably a little bit worse. You guys will survive it. It's okay. It's an activation drill. You'll be fine. 10, up and down. Bottom leg bends to stabilize. 10, forward and back, or back and forward, which is what I just did. And 5, forward circles, 5 backward circles. That is your first drill. Again, I just call that a side-lying hip abduction series. Seems simple enough. Second exercise we're going to do for our activation, tying into these hip and butt muscles, is our abdominal muscles, in this case our obliques. So we are going to strengthen your oblique muscles that hold your hips and stabilize them side to side a little bit with a side plank. So I'm going to drop down on one elbow. There's a couple ways you could do this. A regular plank where our legs are straight, we pop our hips up in the air, and I always cue people to push their hips up as high as you can, and you'll feel that kind of tensing up on this bottom side oblique. You can see my shoulders align directly over my elbow, so it's not like out here like this where I'm straining on my shoulder, and obviously not the other way either. We try to keep that vertical alignment. And something that's harder to see on the video is that I'm not sitting my butt back behind me like this. I'm pushing it forward and squeezing my glutes while holding my hips up. So I'm thinking up and forward towards you guys with my hips. We're gonna hold this, say 20, 30 seconds to start out, up to a minute if you are capable of that. That's good for you. I don't even know if I can do that. That's the regular version that we might do. If that's a little bit challenging for you, just kind of like on that hip abduction series, we're gonna bend the knees, but do the same thing. Squeeze my butt, pick my hips up. This tends to be a little bit easier. You could also elevate your arm, like this support arm, and put it on a bench or a chair or something, I don't know. That will also make it easier because you're not at such a low angle. It puts a little bit more vertical orientation into it, which just puts a little bit less pressure on the shoulder and this arm and these obliques. Again, 30 seconds to a minute on each side. If for some reason that's too easy for you, first of all, quit being a try-hard and a show-off. Second of all, try this. We go into that side plank position. We add in that hip abduction from the first one. That's 2 reps. I'm good. I should probably do these things that I'm telling you guys to do more often because I clearly suck at them. As with all things that are unilateral or one-sided, we do the opposite side as well. So if you are doing your regular plank, hips up high, butt squeeze so our hips are forward, just kind of creating a straight line with our body, 30 seconds to a minute. If that is too challenging for you, our knee plank, same thing, 30 seconds to a minute. If you need something in between, you can do a leg raise in this position. That also is terrible. But again, our focus here is on squeezing those lower side obliques to help create that stabilization through our hips. So, we have knocked out our hip abduction series and our side planks. The next thing we're gonna go into, because I remember this, is a muscle energy technique, which is just a way to realign your pelvis. Sometimes the 2 parts of your pelvis get shifted a little bit out of place. And when that happens, it just creates a little bit of tension in different areas that tends to or can possibly lead to some pain that we do not like. So what we're gonna do is get this yoga block, put that to the side. We'll need that in a minute. We're gonna lie down on our back, spin our hat around so that the brim is not pushing into the floor. What we're doing here is working the back side of one leg and the front side of the other. Again, we're working on that shifting of the 2 sides of the hips here. So on my right leg to start, I'm gonna think glutes, hamstrings, etc. On this side, we're gonna think abs, hip flexors, and quads. So how do we do that? With that right leg, I'm going to think a bridge. With the left leg, I'm going to think hip flexor, knee drive up to my chest, Both of these being an isometric hold that I'm going to put in place so I can't move. So right now, I'm gonna kind of tighten up my abs a little bit so my back is nice and neutral. I'm gonna bridge on my right foot, and while I'm bridging, I'm gonna push into my hands with my left knee and hold that as tight as I can. I'm gonna say for around 5 to 10 seconds on each side here. So my hands going against my knee, my right foot you can see is digging into the floor. I'm gonna pick my hips up and squeeze my butt. And now I'm pushing that left knee up into my hands here. Nice and tight, around 5 to 10 seconds. Relax for a second, because if you were like me and you're talking through it, you're gonna be out of breath. Same thing, now left foot pushing into the floor, right knee driving into my hands, holding that position. I tend to go as tight as I can and cramp up my hamstring whenever I do it. Some practitioners will tell you don't need to go as hard as you can. I just like to do everything with maximal intensity. I'm just kidding, that's just the way I do it. I like to work hard and make things burn. 5 to 10 seconds on the other side. Now, that can be done independently or with the next exercise that I'm gonna show you. In this case, I'll show you with the third exercise just because I think it's generally done that way, where we're gonna do one leg pushing, pulling, the other leg pushing and pulling, and then we're gonna switch into this isometric hip adduction. ADD, like a delta action, where we're lying on our back in a bridge position. I don't know how you guys are gonna be able to see this. That'll work. Bridge position here. I'm going to use a yoga block in this case. You can use a yoga block if you have one, a basketball or some other kind of ball if you have one, or really any kind of implement that isn't super wide or long and is dense enough to hold against the straining of your super powerful thighs. What I mean by that, we're gonna put that yoga block between our knees and we're just going to squeeze it. Again, I'm gonna go as tight as I can for 5 to 10 seconds. And then I'm gonna relax it. We can relax for a few seconds. Again, same thing. You guys can't see it, but if there were arrows here indicating my line of tension, I'd be pushing in against that thigh and against that block with my thighs for 5 to 10 seconds. And relax it. Now, as I was saying a little bit ago, that can be done with the push-pull of the knees, or it can be done after. I think, like I said, that it's generally kind of combined. So one leg, two leg, squeeze the block for 5 to 10 seconds. Maybe go through that 3 to 5 times would be my recommendation as a strength coach, not as a physical therapist or some other professional. So just keep that in mind too. But that's it. Those are your exercises that I would recommend to you guys for activation. Give those a try. These are the kind of things that I do whenever I have low back pain that I'm dealing with that tend to ease up the tension in my low back. So if you do have low back pain, give all these a try. Let me know in the comments what you think and if it did help you. I hope it does. That's my goal for all this. But if not, go see a professional that is able to give you more professional advice than I can. And I hope you guys liked this video. This has been week 2 or step 2, which is activation of the muscles surrounding the hip. We addressed abduction or AB, bravo duction, where our knees go out. We addressed hip flexion and extension, hip flexion being knee up, hip extension being leg back, and adduction or adduction, which was squeezing the block, bringing our thighs in together. Those being the main movements of the hip. Didn't address really a whole lot of rotation today, but it's kind of hard to activate that. Except, well, with the hip abduction at the beginning, you can kind of turn your toe out or inward. So we'll say we did that too. Again, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure that you tune in next week for the last part of this 3-part series where we're going to actually give you some training tips for the fundamental movement patterns of the hips. So that'll be a little bit more weight training style stuff instead of this kind of preparation or preparatory information that I've given you the last 2 weeks. I hope you guys enjoy. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. Do so. There will probably be more cool content coming out. If this video and this series goes over well, I will probably have to force myself to keep doing it. So subscribe, like, hit the little bell thing because that's what all the YouTubers say now. And we will see you guys next week for week 3.